They deleted the stamina bar in the Souls-like on purpose. That's the whole gimmicks everyone arguing about right now. So let's get into whether it actually works because we have a lot to say either way. This is my review of Mortal Shell 2. So a quick setup for anyone who's never touched the first game. You're the Harbinger, basically a soulless husk with zero power of your own. You get power by climbing into shells, which are bodies of dead warriors, each one with its own weapon, abilities, and slice of backstory that you unlock as you go. That's the whole hook of the original Mortal Shell, and it's still here. What's different is pretty much everything wrapped around it. Attacking and dodging costs absolutely nothing, and there's a meter called Resolve, but it works backwards from what you'd expect. You fill it up by landing hits and then spend it on range attacks and shell abilities. So the game is basically telling you, hey, don't back off, don't play it safe, get in there, because that's literally how you unlock the fun stuff, by playing aggressively and fast. And that one chain flips the whole rhythm of combat on its head. Normal Souls-like, normal Mortal Shell, there's this built-in pull toward cautions. You poke, retreat, wait for stamina, and then you repeat the whole thing. Here, retreating gives you nothing back, only hit stuff refills anything. So the game is quietly shoving you towards being aggressive in the combat, and combat backs up that hard. Every weapon's got real weight to it. Perfect guards and execution lands with a crunch that just feels really good. Combat stays addictive even after a dozen of hours, which if you played enough of these games, you know that's not always a given. So here's the actual question. No stamina, does that mean no challenge? And I'm here to tell you, not even close, and the way they've handled it is honestly pretty smart. You still can't cancel out of an attack animation. Once you swing, you're locked in fully, so whiffing against a slow enemy, you still get punished. The Harbingers are also tankier this time, which had me a little worried going into this game because a beefier main character usually means an easier game. But I'm glad to say that was the complete opposite here. You're not dying in one hit as the Harbinger, but 2 or 3 and you're getting yanked out of your shell, left fighting in your fragile little true form. That moment, losing your shell mid-fight, doesn't lower the stakes, it actually raises them. It's not so much as a second life mechanic, it's more of a proof that you can finish this out without your best asset. So no, this isn't a difficulty collapse, it's a redesign. So the challenge has just been moved from babysitting a stamina meter to actually committing to your positioning. Whether that's better depends on what you liked about the stamina in the first place. If you love that tension of watching the stamina bar and deciding you have enough left for one more dodge, then yeah, you're gonna miss it. But if the stamina management always felt annoying than exciting to you, this is gonna feel like a genuine upgrade. Defense also got reworked too, tied to 2 items called seals. You only equip one at a time and each one completely changes how you play defensively. One is a standard block with a parry layered on top of it, nail the timing and get it repost that does a real break damage. Another strips blocking away entirely but tightens the parry window even further. High risk, way bigger payoff. The third one brings back the Harden mechanic, the classic move from the first game where you turn into a stone and just shrug off a hit. And this time you can trigger it mid-animation if your reflexes are good enough. Swapping seals basically swaps your entire defensive identity, and it's one of the smarter systems in the whole game. 9 confirmed total, 8 of them you find out in the world, plus 1 that's prologue only and gone forever once the intro wraps up. Every seal now has a real active ability stacked on top of the passive stuff from the first game, and they're different enough that swapping seals changes how you fight and not just how you look doing it. Proxima's got a biosampler that you can specialize a few different ways. My favorite version calls down actual lightning strikes on the ground nearby, which sounds ridiculous as it sounds and is generally great for breaking up groups. Gragu rips out heart of enemies to keep himself alive, which plays less like a knight and more like something that wandered in from a horror movie. Aerodim's built around a shoulder bash playstyle with a passive that lets you execute low health enemies outright. And that threshold climbs the more you stack it. Serial fires plastic thorns that hunt targets down, but he takes damage doing it. Building up this pain meter once maxed out actually makes him dodge faster. There's a really weird risk reward loop built around hurting yourself on purpose. The first Mortal Shell game had a hub with 3 paths branching into linear dungeons. This one throws that out completely. Fallgrim is a real open world now, split into 2 regions. Fainwild first and then Monomum once you can actually survive it, with Marrow Keep as your hub, and then the level design earns every bit of praise that it's getting. Areas loop back into each other in ways that makes the world bigger than it actually is. Elevator, jump gates, launch pads, hidden paths. You think that you're done exploring the zone, and then nope, there's another direction that you actually missed. That exploration ties straight into a progression and is smartly done. Early on, you can find a merchant who sells maps pointing you towards general search areas for weapons and shells. Not exact spots, just a nudge. Shell locations also open up through glimpses, which you find by exploring and cleansing beacons. So the game is always giving you a reason to wander without ever completely losing you. Now there is a few things that I have to be straightforward with you. First stretch of the game throws real variety at you. Cross into the back half though, and you're almost fighting reskins of stuff that you already fought. Same attack patterns, just different armor and a new paint job. Not that the game is totally out of ideas. New enemies do show up right at the end, but there's a real multi-hour chunk in the middle where the discovery just flattens out. At $50, that's way more forgivable trade-off than at a 70, but honestly, I think it's fair. But you should know that coming into it because it's the single most consistent complaint across every piece of coverage on this game. Performance is a bit messier because it generally depends on your rig. A lot of people are reporting severe frame drops, specifically during world transition, the kind of stutter that screams an asset streaming problem and not a raw horsepower problem. Turning off seamless dungeon loading and dialing back ray tracing helped a lot there, so if you're on a beefy PC, you'll probably be fine, but if you're not, budget some time for some settings tinkering and keep an eye out for a couple of patches. Symmetry, the devs for this game, confirmed it's got real balance and stability fixes in it. The game does have some bugs here and there, and it's worth naming them straight up. Multiple people are reporting hit collision issues, falling into geometry you shouldn't be able to reach, having to reload to fix it. A couple of specific shell abilities have targeting problems too. Grogru's staggering blow and Teal's shadow strike were both reported missing or landing at weird angles, often enough to mess with the builds that are depending on them. None of those bugs are game breaking. All of it is kind of rough around the edges that you expect from a mid-sized studios shipping something this ambitious. What stood out to me was that the devs Symmetry was actually in the room during the review process and acknowledging bugs live and pushing fixes during the beta review. It doesn't erase the issue, but it does say something about how this thing is probably going to get supported soon after launch. So my final thoughts, back to the actual question, did removing stamina hurt Mortal Shell 2? Absolutely not. If anything, this is the best single decision in the sequel. It doesn't remove the challenge of the game, it just reallocates it from babysitting that stamina meter to actually committing to your position, and back that up with the seal system that gives you real control over how you want to play defense. The combat that comes out of all of that is a lot faster, more aggressive, and just more satisfying to pull off than anything in the original. What actually holds this game back isn't the stamina system at all. It's the reskin enemies in the back half and some of the real balanced weirdness in between the strong and weak shells. And performance that swings more than it should depending on your hardware. None of that is a deal breaker. Out of a lot of the games I've reviewed this year, these are some of the more minor bugs, and all of these are the kind of stuff that a patch can generally fix very quickly. And based on how the responsive Symmetry has been during the beta review of the game, I'd bet on at least some of that happening very soon. As this is a $50 game, 25 to 30 hour campaign, and 9 generally different ways to build your guy, and a world that rewards poking around as much as any Souls-like that I've played in a while, that is an easy yes if you're into this genre at all. If you never played one and wondering if you need to, don't bother wasting your time. This game stands completely alone, and if you're someone who thinks managing stamina is what makes a Souls-like, go in knowing that it's gone and knowing that Symmetry replaced it with something that honestly I think is better. But that's it for my review of Mortal Shell 2. Drop a comment. Are you team stamina, or did this convince you that Symmetry made the right call? Want to know where people land on this? Hit subscribe if this is your type of content. I do love when YouTube gives me money for just talking. I'm on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 9:30 Eastern time. Come through and watch me play crappy gameplay. But until next time, find your shell out there, and as always, stay alpha.